Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I can't tell you how pleased I am with the turnout, with the interest in Common Core in Ohio and the future of our children, our state, and our country. To those of you who have been a part of this effort for well over a year now, it's good to see so many of you again. Many of you I've spent hours with over the last year, and I've run into and met some of the most incredible people, so determined to take back their authority over their child, take back their child's education, and ultimately their future. To those of you this is your initial crash course, welcome. Buckle up. Our presenters tonight are going to load you up on information. There should be in your packet a piece of loose leaf so you can take notes. You're going to need that, probably both sides. Tonight we welcome experts in disciplines and who are qualified to speak to their area of expertise as it relates to Common Core. But tonight we welcome you as the experts on your child. That is what's key here. We are dealing with legislators, and whether they are, no matter how well intended, or the corporatists, regardless of their positions in power and wealth, they are not the expert on your child. You are, first and foremost, first and final authority on your child. If the price for a 21st century global education is my child's soul, his humanness, his joy, that's not a price I'm willing to pay. And I'm not willing to give someone else authority over my child or their destiny. What I want you to leave here tonight, when you leave here tonight, I want you to be empowered to go and basically be the advocate for your child you have to be. They will take this power as far as they can take it. It is your responsibility, and quite honestly, it's your duty to stand up and say, enough, I'm taking over from here, and I will determine my child's future. So thank you. I welcome you again. I'm going to turn it over to my partner in crime in Cincinnati, Taya Shoemake. She is the homeschool guru that I pulled into this back last January. But she's going to introduce our moderator, and we'll, like I said, buckle up. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. I don't know that I'm a homeschool guru, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Seth Morgan. Seth, for those of you who don't know, is an Ohio husband, father, a small business owner, and former legislator. He was elected to the Ohio House in 2008 and quickly rose to prominence. He was the chair of the Conservative Republican Leadership Committee, and he also, during his tenure, forced Governor Strickland to be transparent with the public about his ineffective evidence-based education system, much of which we are seeing right now with the Race to the Top advent. Seth, I just call him a brother in crime because he gets it. It's about liberty, and actually he has a book called It's About Liberty, Stupid. And that will be available to you outside in the lobby after the forum tonight. So again, thank you for coming, and it is my distinct privilege to introduce Seth Morgan.
Good evening to you each. You can do better than that. I mean, like a school classroom, I want you to give a round of applause to Taya Shoemake and Heidi Huber, who continue to just deliver in big ways for the Patriot movement. Very well. Continue to express your appreciation to them. They really are leading the charge in Ohio on this issue. Well, this is an event in which you were invited to bring your legislator to learn more about Common Core. And I believe I've seen at least one legislator in the room. I believe we have Senator Randy Gardner here with us tonight. Are there any other legislators who would like to be stand and take a bow very quickly? Okay, please know that, there they are, Joe. All right. Excellent. I think that's Joe Eaker and Tim Schaefer. Thank you. I've got lights up here, so appreciate that. There is a legislative meeting going on. I believe the House is in session as we speak, so perhaps some of them will come in. Make sure you share this experience, though, with your legislator when you're done. I'd also like to make one more special mention, and that is Treasurer Josh Mandel, who has come out in support of the repeal effort in the House, House Bill 237. With us tonight is not the good treasurer, but we do have Seth Unger at his place. Seth, thank you for coming to us. We're going to start the program very shortly, but first let me, if you don't mind, just give at least some context from my perspective. I was elected to the Ohio Assembly in 2008 and served an infamous 2 years. Got in a fight with the state Republican Party, and that was that. If you want more of the story, just come to the table afterwards. During that 2-year period, 2009-2010, is when we saw the massive stimulus outflow of money coming from Washington, D.C., into the states. And as part of that, money was set aside for what was called Race to the Top. Now, at the time, that effort was really just an effort to bring more reform-oriented policies into the state capitals. And it was one of the few areas that a Republican like myself and the Democratic Party, we were in the minority at the time, could look at and say there was some common ground. Specifically, President Obama had come out in support of charter schools. Charter schools were under significant attack in the Ohio budget under Governor Strickland. And it was an area for some bipartisan, we believed, efforts to be accomplished. Because of my work in defending school choice and educational freedom and education reform, I ended up getting invited to a lot of events throughout the country. And one of those events was an event held by the Excellence in Education Foundation in Washington, D.C., chaired by former Governor Jeb Bush. Now let me say to you, I know this is not going to be popular in this room, I have a lot of respect for former Governor Jeb Bush, and I think he's got a lot of neat ideas, and what I appreciate about Jeb Bush is that he speaks his feelings with clarity. At that event, the idea, wasn't a new idea, but the idea of a national standard for education was brought up yet again. Now in the room was a host of legislators throughout the country, including myself, and the room was, I believe, Heritage Foundation and the Cato Institute, like a lot of great minds on education reform. And I'll never forget watching Cato Institute go to war with a set of panelists, verbally, of course, if Janet Napolitano was listening, I meant that proverbially, ma'am. Go to war with a set of panelists on the fact that while they appreciated the drive for a standardized effort to measure accomplishment of students, that it could by no means come at the cost of states' rights. That it had to be a voluntary decision on behalf of the states to join. And I remember at the end of that walking up to the Cato guys and saying thank you for standing up, because it wasn't even a popular concept at that point. It was kind of like everybody, you've been in the room with the group think. Everybody thought, man, this is a great idea. And Cato was kind of like throwing some water on the fire because everybody agreed, including yours truly, and I still do, with high standards for education. If the public is to invest, we should expect a lot out of what we're getting out of public education. The problem at even that time was preserving the ability of the states to maintain their own future in education policy. Now that led from there to a Race to the Top effort. Don't know if you remember this, but many Republicans, including yours truly, were in support of additional efforts to reform education and to use Race to the Top as an effort to get there. Why? Because it was an area we had common ground. Governor Strickland was trying to play nice with President Obama. And we said to ourselves, look, if they're going to use this as an opportunity to reform education in Ohio towards educational reform, towards freedom of choice for parents, etc., we're for that. A bill was introduced. A Senate bill was then changed at the last minute by Secretary of State Husted, then Senator, to include a longitudinal data system. That was the beginning, frankly, of the outcome, I believe, of Common Core. At that time, as you will learn tonight, they were already working on not a national standard, not a state-run standard, but an overarching system whereby they would attach a carrot called money to a policy called Common Core that they would then shove down the throats of the states. It's one of those moments that you look back on from history with great clarity, and you say to yourself, what a mess. But I say to you tonight, sorry for getting on my rant of it's about liberty, stupid. By the way, the sequel to that book is coming out soon. It's about liberty, stupid for dummies, but also a joke. I say to you that this is what government can do. It's about all government can do. You see, government has an inability. They are unable to do anything other than broad sweeping policies to fix issues that are normally not so sweeping. You see, we understand our kids. I've got 3 children that we are very active in their education. We understand our kids different than government does. All government can do is throw a big blanket on top of it and say, if we grow government in this way, it's going to overall have a good outcome. The problem is people get squashed every step of the way through the process. So we have to do more than just stand against Common Core. Frankly, I tell you that the best measurement of outcome is an informed family who is walking alongside of their child as they work through the educational process. Now, would to God that were true in every family throughout Ohio. We all know it isn't. But while we stand to stop government intrusion, specifically from Washington, D.C., we must at the same time stand for the opportunity for families to lead the education way through things like educational savings accounts and freedom, complete vouchers across the state of Ohio, because you are the ultimate market of the question of, is your child obtaining? It's been proven over again that families that are involved in their child's education, that's normally a child that is doing very, very well. So, I ask you to buckle up. You're going to have a lot of information shared with you tonight. And I think it was Heidi who did mention that there are pieces of paper in your program. I encourage you to write questions on that piece of paper as we move through the evening. Make sure you note who was the presenter as you did that, as you write the question. At the end, presuming that all of these fine women and men stay on time, we will have time for some Q&A. And we're going to do that by taking questions throughout the program. Look for people coming to the end of the aisles. Get your questions passed to the right or the left. As you see them, we will collect them and do our best to answer as many as we can. With that, in the legislatures, how do you say no to moms? Senator Schaefer, Senator Eaker, how do you say no to moms? You don't say no to moms. So keep up the great work. How many moms do we have in the audience tonight? All right, excellent. For the sake of time, we skipped over the first presenter, and I failed to mention that, Miss Heidi Huber, our own Heidi Huber. Many of you have this apparently in your program. So Heidi will be around. Take a moment, read this through. Heidi was going to present on the fact that this really, and I think Jamie touched on it, this really is not about educational standards from the federal government. It's really about an effort to control. And so take a look at that. If you didn't have it in your program, connect with Heidi. I'm sure we can get them to you. But we do want to keep this on time.